Oaks, Kunf Fu Panda 4. Let's review it. First thing we gotta address is the fact that a year ago, like literally a year ago, I made a video talking about how Kunf Fu Panda 3 is basically the worst one among the first three. And people are now in my DMs talking about, oh, this aged badly, wara. I'm here to double down still. When I look at those first three movies, it is still Kunf Fu Panda 2, Kunf Fu Panda 1, and Kunf Fu Panda 3. Now, with the addition of this movie, does everything still stay the same? Let's talk about it. The plot of this movie is very simple. A chameleon, a sorcerer, is basically trying to open up a gate to the spirit world where she gets access to all the previous Kung Fu masters and tries to steal all their skills. Po very much has to stop this and goes on his own personal journey in the process, where he has to learn to accept change, where he has to accept that, okay, cool, I love my life, but things can always be better. But here's my issue with this story. A villain who is going around stealing people's powers in order to make themselves stronger, in order to take over China. I feel like we've done this before. I genuinely feel like we've done this before in the last movie. You can switch it however you want to switch it, but this is literally General Kai's deal. And honestly, that is my main issue with this movie. It doesn't really offer anything new in a meaningful way. The Kung Fu Panda universe doesn't expand in a way that I think matters. The way Kung Fu Panda 3 ends, right? With Po now having the staff of wisdom and teaching everybody chi. If you had told me, bro, he is now the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, I would have taken that. Honestly, the way Kung Fu Panda 3 ends, it's a way that makes this movie kind of not needed. Now, let's talk about the characters. The main one we gotta talk about is the chameleon. I will say her introduction is the weakest among all the other villains. Let's speak about this. We have Tai Lang, who escapes that prison, and you're like, wow, he is a problem. And then we have Lord Shen, who basically defeats a master on Kung Fu. 3 masters to be exact. And you're like, he's a problem. And then we have Kai, who literally defeats Oogway. What do you think? He is a problem. And then we come to the chameleon. Her intro, she turns into a giant elephant and pushes somebody off the stairs. That's all she does. And shapeshift. When I look at all the villain intros, that is so weak, bro. That's so weak. And that's my problem with her. We are told how dangerous and formidable this woman is. But whenever we see her in action, it's just meh. You're like, okay. Like those criminals, when they were having that meeting, they were right. Like if they're banded together, they could take her, to be honest. And we gotta discuss her motivation. Specifically the Kung Fu thing. She says like all the Kung Fu masters and holes turned her away because she was small and lonely and wasn't destined for Kung Fu. But like, bro, Mantis literally exists. Shifu exists. Even Viper exists. There are a lot of small people like who look small, lowly, and like, you can squish them. And they turn out to be great Kung Fu masters. All I'm saying is this world has built up this narrative that anybody at any size can turn into a Kung Fu master. For somebody to come in and say, I was too small and lowly to make it, it goes against the established rules of this world. I'm just saying. Also, if you have the power to steal Kung Fu, you could have done that to anybody. There are a lot, and I mean a lot of Kung Fu masters in this world. You could have just gone to them and stolen their abilities and gone about your way. I don't understand why we're doing this song and dance. And I understand the power of Kung Fu is housed in the spirit. But I genuinely feel like that is an excuse to make cameos happen. The thing about this movie is it is riding on the cloud of Tai Lang, Lord Shen, and General Kai. The person who was making this realized that they have nothing else to offer in terms of like new stories. So what we're gonna do is bring back all the old villains and give people a reason to fill up their theaters. Bro, I would have been happy if you had stolen Po's Kung Fu. Because in the beginning, Shifu does say he needs to figure out a different way besides Kung Fu to solve his problems. If Kung Fu wasn't something he had and he had to defeat you, I genuinely feel like that would have been a great way to figure this out. I'm not even a writer, and right now I'm cooking more than the people that wrote this. And then we have the fox. My issue with her is that she's kinda boring and not needed. If you remove her, guess what happens? Po go finds the chameleon because he thinks she is Tai Lang, realizes that, oh, I've been duped still, and then boom, he is trapped. And you may say, no, what about the staff? The staff needs to be given willingly. She's a chameleon. She has the power to change shapes, bro. She could literally have turned into one of Po's friends and gotten that stuff like this. The inclusion of this fox is not needed for the story to happen. And when I say she's not interesting, I'm genuinely saying her entire arc is the most predictable thing in this story. The moment she told Po about who the chameleon is and how the chameleon is probably the person behind Tai Lang, I was like, oh, you know that way too easily. You are probably going to betray us and then betray your own master, and then you wanted the team at the end. And that's exactly what happened. And speaking of characters, we have to speak about the Furious 5. Not including them in this, it's just sad, bro. It's just sad. Building up characters only to discard them, it never feels good. You just always feel like something is missing. And speaking of sad characters, or like things that are doing when characters that are sad, Shifu. Every single movie, they make him less relevant. I'm just saying, I'm watching what they're doing with my Master Shifu. Let's talk positives though. Let's talk some positive. The animation in this is really good. I think it holds up with the rest. I am more enthralled by how they use the lighting in this. Like, genuinely rewatch it and see how they light up the scenes. Boy, it is so beautiful. Even when the chameleon changes into that elephant, the way everything just turns dark and it hits. That's one of the strong points is for me in this movie. The action was also cool. What they did here, that opening scene where Po fights that stingray, it's just nice to know that he also rides for Steve. Like, what a good scene. But in general, I don't think there's ever been a Kunf Fu Panda project where the Kung Fu and the action let me down. I'm glad that didn't happen here. The voice acting is also amazing. Ian McShane coming back as Tai Lang. Jack Black is always nice. Aquafina actually surprised me when I heard she was cast. I was like, bro, what are they doing? But she held it down. Like, she genuinely held it down. I have to give her props. And Viola Davis also did an amazing job as a chameleon. I am not familiar with her work in the voice acting realm, but for my first time hearing her like this, she handled it so perfectly. Now, speak about the ending. Does not make sense to me, bro. It doesn't make sense to me at all for this movie to end like this. I'm just saying, you have all these villains that are just out there. They're finally free from the spirit world, and they're just okay with going back. Like, they're willingly going back. This isn't Naruto, bro. When villains get defeated here, they don't learn some deep lesson and change who they are. I'm just saying that there should at least be one person in that entire room who was like, bro, I'm back in business. Look, I understand Po saves them and they may feel indebted to him, but enough to go back to the spirit realm, no problems. Even that bow they do to him, something feels off about it. Final thoughts though. I don't think this movie needs to exist. Like, yeah, sure, it's a good way to kill time, but in the bigger scheme of things, I don't think this adds enough into the Kunf Fu Panda world that I care about it. Even that new Dragon Warrior, I'm like, nah, that's an ass pull, bro. That's an ass pull. Like, we did not need this. I genuinely feel like we don't. When you look at the shorts, the movies, and the series, we low-key have enough Kunf Fu Panda content. Or at least, this isn't the direction we should be going in.